Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. Thank you so much for the downloads, the feedback, the questions, the emails. Really do appreciate all the feedback. Had some outstanding questions come in lately that really drove the title of this podcast, Estate Plans 101. You know, really just understanding what the heck is an estate plan, maybe some of the pitfalls and things that people need to really watch out for if you're out there looking for it, or if you're in the process of doing that with someone, maybe questions you can ask. Now, I have been thinking a lot lately about the messaging that is out there, the Wall Street marketing-driven message that you've heard me talk about on this podcast frequently. And when I say that, it's always good to remind everybody what I mean is that Wall Street drives the narrative. We hear a lot of talk on the political shows about the narrative behind politics. If we're really looking at the financial world, Wall Street drives the narrative when it comes to investing and retirement and the financial world in general, largely because Wall Street pays billions of dollars a year. I mean, really, billions of dollars a year in advertising spend to put their message front and center. And their message is invest, invest, invest. If you want to send your kids to college, you've got to invest, invest, invest. If you want to retire, it's all about invest, invest, invest. And if you lose your dog, it's because you didn't invest enough. My whole point here is that the narrative is something to pay close attention to. What is behind the curtain, if you will, under the kimono for the Wall Street advisory machine, right? Pay attention to that, especially in troubled times that we're in right now. This 2020 year is going to go down as one of those, I think, in the history books of what the heck just happened, right? This is a really serious roller coaster ride of a year. And the investment world has been no different. Oh my gosh, the investment world has just been amazing to watch the ups and downs, the crazy twists and turns. Please, before you jump in and make decisions, please seek out the advice of hopefully a certified financial planner. Now, I myself am a certified financial planner. Yes, I am unabashedly raising my hand here in my studio workshop in Southern California saying I work with folks all over the country. I would love to have a conversation with you face-to-face with Zoom. Awesome. We can have a conversation and talk about your situation. Either way, before you jump into or out of anything as it relates to your investments, your retirement planning, college savings, all of those things, please take a moment, step back, get in touch with a certified financial planner, and take some time. Take advantage of a complimentary consultation. Most certified financial planners, like myself, will offer you a complimentary consultation to talk about your specific situation. Now, before I dive in with a watch your step moment and my deal of the week returns again, I've got a great deal of the week. Quick disclosure, I am not an attorney. I am not a certified public accountant. I am a certified financial planner professional, as well as a chartered financial consultant and an investment advisor representative, and I'm a paralegal. Ha! So cool, right? All that to say this. Please don't act on things that you hear on this show as if you're hearing advice for you specifically. Please seek out the guidance of a certified financial planner professional, either in your area or on your computer screen with me anytime. You can send me an email at Kraig@kraigstrom.com. That's Kraig with a K, K-R-A-I-G, kraigstrom.com. Now, let's jump in. I'm going to get to my deal of the week, which is this. First, to say that network matters. I said this, probably last year on my podcast. It's a good thing to remind everybody of, especially in this time of COVID and coronavirus and unfortunately people being furloughed and losing their jobs and watching companies go under. I had this question asked to me, and the question was related to college planning. And the question was, what's the most important thing that I can do to help my son or daughter get ready to go to college? And they asked me this in a college planning workshop. I was actually teaching 60 some odd people a college planning workshop. And the question was, what's the number one thing, Kraig, that you would recommend as the priority that we need to work on? There's so much that you need to do. And my answer was, make sure that your kids have a LinkedIn profile. And the room got silent. What? Why would we need a LinkedIn profile? You mean social media? I said, yes, LinkedIn. Because the single most important thing that anyone can take out of college, in my opinion, is the network. It is the network that you can build at college, at school, at work, in your Rotary, in your car club, wherever it is. Your network is much more important than your college degree these days. You could have 5 college students, you could have 5 people in the top of their careers, and they all have the same master's degree. They all have the same psychotherapy degree. They all have the nuclear physics degree, whatever it is. And I guarantee you, the woman or the man who has the best network, who is the most well-connected person, will get the job, the top job, the position, the benefit, will have the opportunity presented, because network is the most important thing that you can actually take with you out of college and into life. I mean, if you really think about it, if you think about good things that have happened in your life, think back to how many of them happened as a direct result of people that you knew, connections that you had. So my deal of the week this week is actually on that same line. That I purchased a few years ago. No, 2 years ago. That's almost 2 years. Take too long. We get so busy. I had an opportunity to purchase a large storage trailer. I have a large property, a large yard, and I wanted a storage trailer that I could use for, vehicles. I wanted some place that I could close up and actually have a storage unit. And I didn't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a storage container. Those are available all over the place here in Southern California. You can buy used shipping containers, and they're usually $2,000 to $3,000. They're expensive. So I didn't want to do that. And one day, through my network, I was offered the opportunity to buy a large shipping trailer for $600 delivered. Yes, I love it. I'll take it. Now, I made a tactical mistake when I had that trailer delivered for free. I made a mistake. They put it in the wrong part of on my property. They didn't get it in the right spot. So they left. And there this trailer sat for over a year. Yeah, so it's been over a year. That trailer sat in the wrong place, not being utilized yet because I did not have a way to move this giant thing. And I just didn't want to spend any significant amount of money moving my $600 bargain trailer. That's where my network comes in, folks. Network. Who you know is critically important. So I set about to taking care of many other projects and tasks and honeydews and home renovation things. And I got around to this season, summertime, coronavirus, stuck at home, whatever you want to call it. And I said, hey, it's time to move that trailer, figure this out. So I actually put it out to my network. I put it out to my car show friends, my car club, my Facebook friends, my social media. I put it out there that says, hey, I need something, maybe like a large forklift, some big piece of equipment that is available, that somebody who knows somebody might just be able to come by and move this thing. Well, it was about 2 months that I had just sort of put that out into the ether. And sure enough, just recently, a friend of mine said, hey, I've got a buddy who's working on a roofing project, a big construction project, and they have one of those big commercial forklifts, and they're about to be done, and I think the yard where they store it is actually just past your house. One thing led to another. The connection was made. Turns out the owner of the company is also a friend. Through my car show, said, oh yeah, no problem. We can definitely stop by. It'll take no time at all. And sure enough, 2 weeks ago, actually a week ago, they stopped by, unloaded a gigantic forklift, drove it into my backyard, just grabbed that trailer and just moved it around in less than 15 minutes. It was exactly in the spot that I'd wanted it, for free. I love it. The deal of the week message today on today's show is make sure that you've got a great network. Don't be afraid of social media. If you're not on Facebook and LinkedIn or whatever, you're, oh, no, I don't do Facebook. Well, Facebook is not always all about just social media, clicking and liking and things like that. It's a great way to stay connected with people. I've lost track of how many times I have had a success story just like this because of my network. And other friends have come and found me to access my network, and I make a connection. I did that just today. As I'm recording this, the morning that I'm recording this, I connected a friend of mine to somebody all the way out in Colorado. I'm in California. He needed a connection to someone who was very specific. We'll keep it private for now. And whammo, I had the connection. They happened to be in Colorado. It was a perfect connection because I have a great network. So there's your deal of the week. I got my trailer, my discount bargain trailer, moved for free. I love it. Now, Watch Your Step is the segment that I've always kept in here. This idea that, again, the marketing machine wants to tell you this is how you're supposed to invest or save for retirement, right? Well, through my network again, someone at my car show, they knew that I'm a financial planner. And they had seen that on my car show, and so they actually got in touch with me and said, hey, we are going through this difficult time where we had this job slowdown with the industry that they're in. Life kind of came to a screeching halt, and things are starting to move back in the right direction. They're starting to really open up. So they wanted to get some feedback from a certified financial planner, and we got on a Zoom call straight away, and I said, what's on your mind? What have you been thinking about? And one of the first things that came up was, we want to talk about investing. And I said, okay, fine. And I'd gotten some general information as far as what prompted the call. Well, the call was really prompted by, oh my gosh, the whole world just blew up around us and our industry just screeched to a halt, and but we're getting back to work now and this is great. And where do we invest? So I step back and I say this. Whenever I get that question, I say, well, why do you feel like you need to invest? Well, the answer was, well, we're in our mid 30s now, and we feel like we're way behind, and we need to. I figure we need to invest and save for retirement. I said, well, okay, let's go through the fundamentals, the basics first. That's what I want you to do, folks, is watch your step as it relates to your first step when it comes to saving for retirement or planning for retirement. If you think about it like building a castle, like you're building a castle, the very first thing that you want to do with your castle is make sure that your castle is secure. Make sure that it is protected. So that means let's talk about car insurance, homeowners insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. Make sure that under difficult circumstances, something bad happens, that everything else will be okay as okay can be because you had your protection first. Protection should always be the first part of a conversation. If you meet with a financial professional and they jump right into invest, save, invest, buy this life insurance, buy this investment. Whoa. If they haven't talked to you about protecting the castle first, I always encourage you to step back, make sure that your protection conversation is first. Then I asked the question, so if an opportunity came up, like to buy real estate or to invest in a small business, I asked this couple, I said, would you be able to do that? Do you have enough cash in the bank to cover 3 to 6 months of your home expenses and be ready for an opportunity like that? Because they had expressed an interest in investing in real estate, for example. And I said, so do you have enough cash in the bank to cover 6 months of expenses and above that, take advantage of a nice real estate opportunity? The answer was no. And so then I asked, well, then why would we invest first? The first thing is protect. The second thing is build a strong foundation of cash on hand. Once you're in a position to take advantage of opportunities and be prepared for emergencies with liquidity and cash, and don't let anybody tell you, you're not earning a rate of return on your money. You know what? When you get in the position to take advantage of a business opportunity or a real estate deal, you need cash available. The rate of return on that opportunity is going to be substantially larger than whatever rate of return you didn't get while you were holding cash. Don't get sucked into that chasing return conversation. So protect the castle first, then build a strong foundation. Cash on hand. Cash is king. Then you invest. That's the watch your step reminder today. Follow those steps so that you can go into saving for retirement securely. Protect the castle. Strong cash on hand. And that's not IRA or 401k. That's literally cash in the bank, folks. Make sure that you've got that so that you are prepared to take advantage of opportunities. All right, now, I want to jump in. I got a lot of questions. So segment 2 is an area that I do listener questions. It's sort of a grab bag depending on what I'm feeling in that day, whether it's an observation or listener questions or client questions. Today, it's actually a variety of people asking me questions via email and directly in person about estate plans. This idea in the legal profession where estate plan, is this generic term. And then you hear people talk about living trusts. Well, isn't that the same? Are they different? What exactly is this? Well, an estate plan is a generic term for the documents, wills and trusts and powers of attorney and all of those things that allow a family to operate in a situation where, let's say, a mom or dad was incapacitated. An estate plan, when it's comprehensive and put together correctly, allows other family members or other representatives to step in and take care of your estate business, an estate plan. Also, an estate plan can lay out, hey, what happens if I don't make it to the finish line, whatever I deem to be the finish line 30 years from now, right? What if I leave early in a car accident or COVID-19 for crying out loud nowadays, right? You've got to have an estate plan in place to make sure that whatever it is that you want to have happen with all of your stuff, that it actually happens, that the government doesn't get involved, that other people or entities don't get involved and interfere. So I've covered this before, but this is an important topic to refresh so that for new listeners and those who have been listening for a long time, I love you out there, but if you're still procrastinating and sitting on the log about getting your own estate plan done for crying out loud, maybe you'll take action and get off the log. Now, let's start with the basics. Let's start with this idea of what the heck is a will and why would I need a trust, a living trust, if I have a will? So here's how it was described to me a long, long time ago in a land far away, actually right here in Southern California. So a long time ago, it was described to me that a will is simply a list of instructions for the probate court. And the probate court is really a place that you go to deal with the assets of a deceased person. In most places, the assets of a deceased person include, among other things, but mostly the house. Usually, anything worth more than $100,000 is a probate asset. And a will is a written list of instructions. It could be handwritten, holographic, but it's mostly typed out. Written will is a list of instructions for a probate court to settle up your estate. Now, a living trust, an inter vivos revocable living trust, is really an entity in of itself, an entity that can actually own assets. So remember what I said just a moment ago, that a probate asset is the asset of a deceased person. So if we transfer those probate assets into the name of a living trust, the living trust now technically owns those assets. And if probate assets are the assets of a deceased person, and a living trust does not die, therefore, there are no assets of a deceased person, no probate. Now, some folks will then push back and say, well, fine, then I'll just get a trust. Well, you do need to have a will, because just by chance, you may end up with assets that fall outside of your living trust. That has been known to happen when people do their own living trust or estate plan work on LegalZoom and other places like that, where an asset did not make it into the trust when it should have. So a will is that list of instructions for the probate court. And when you have a completed estate plan, the will talks to and about the living trust. So if it made it in front of a probate commissioner or a probate judge, the will says, hey, judge, all my stuff is supposed to go through that living trust right over there. You're not involved. And now we have the opportunity to push everything through that living trust. When it's all done correctly, a will and a living trust working together, most of the time, the family left behind, the estate, doesn't even end up in probate at all. There is no probate because we've managed it correctly. That's the secret to how a living trust avoids probate. Now, there's a very important thing while I'm touching on probate. If you own property in more than one state, and you die, property being a house, for example, and you die without a living trust, your family could potentially and most likely have to open a legal probate proceeding in each state. So in my case, if I own property in California and I own property in my home state of Maine, dreams will come true someday, I would, or my family would have to open probate in Maine and California if I died without a living trust. Now, thankfully, I don't have to worry about that. My family doesn't have to worry about that. My wonderful wife, Amy, and I, we both have a living trust. We've got our wills and everything all set together, integrated and buttoned up. And as long as I still like my daughter, Madeline, sometimes she listens. Hello, Madeline. As long as I still like her, she'll be named in my trust, but I can change that if I want to. Love you, Maddie. Now, an additional part of a comprehensive estate plan is the powers of attorney. I think they're personally more important because the powers of attorney for financial matters and for health care matters, these are the documents that you have in place for you today. You are alive going through the process whereby your representatives, if they have a power of attorney, can step in on your behalf while you are alive to help make things go, to help make things work, to sign documents, to buy and sell assets, all of that while you're alive. See, a living trust and a will is generally only going to kick in when you're dead. A power of attorney kicks in while you're alive. These are the documents that you've drafted up to make sure that your wishes are fulfilled while you're alive and unable to say so. That's critical. When you think about medical care, right? Medical care is a situation where There's any number of things that can happen where you're all of a sudden unconscious. You cannot sign things. You can't make any kind of a mental capacity decision, or you don't have the mental capacity to make a decision on your own. You've got to have a power of attorney with what is called an attorney in fact. You've got to have that. Now, one of the big mistakes that some people will make is with their powers of attorney, they will put people in that position who are out of country. Now, this is really what happened just this week. I was actually helping somebody. We're getting ready to work through a new estate plan with the attorney that I work directly with. I work directly with a great law firm under the direction of my attorney, my general partner. As a paralegal, I am. And I'm getting this all ready for him. And the question was, who do you want to be your representative on your powers of attorney for financial matters and for healthcare matters? And this individual said, well, my sister. Well, where does your sister live? I need their address. Well, they live in Italy. What? They live in Italy? Well, how's that going to work if you're in a hospital in Irvine, California, in a coma after a car accident? How is your sister in Italy going to be able to slide right on in there easily and quickly and sign off on things, take phone calls, act on your behalf? See, you've got to think about the power of attorney as really being your representative while you're still in this world. They've got to be available. They really should be someone in your vicinity, at least in country, so they can get to your vicinity, or they may be able to sign things easily and converse with the doctors and so forth easily. Having someone out of country could be difficult. Look what has happened in this coronavirus COVID-19, where we've actually had travel bans, lockdowns, where people, if you had a representative out of country, they wouldn't be able to get here. It's kind of crazy stuff to think about. So with the power of attorney, it's also another important item to seriously consider is it an immediate power of attorney or a springing power of attorney? Now, what that means is, with my wife and I, for example, we have immediate powers of attorney. We can both act on each other's behalf immediately, all the time, anytime. We don't have to wait for one of us to be unconscious. We can actually act on each other's behalf because we'll have immediate powers of attorney. You can also have powers of attorney that are springing powers of attorney. They only spring into life, the power of attorney, when certain criteria are met. The doctor says that Kraig is not conscious and able to make any decisions on his own. He's all drugged up with pain medication. He can't make any financial or medical decisions on his own. The power of attorney springs to life because a doctor said so. Those are the important things to decide. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to have an immediate power of attorney. You might want to have a springing power of attorney that is limited to certain things that person can do on your behalf. Now, there's another really important thing. For those listening who have children, younger children, under 18, even under 25, you've got to know that a comprehensive estate plan will include, or should, done correctly, it should include guardianship provisions. I've said this many times over the years, in person and on this show I've said it, that when you ask somebody, hey, who would you want to be the guardians of your children? And they say, well, we want Cousin Louise. Well, that's great. If you don't have an estate plan, a living trust, and a will, Cousin Louise will have to go to the family courts and fight for custody. And the family court gets to decide who your kids get to go with. You've got to have that kind of thing in writing, or I'm not saying that Aunt Louise is not going to end up with the kids as you want. It just might not be as simple and as easy as it could have been had you just done a really good comprehensive estate plan. Get it done. Make sure the guardianship provisions are done. And then this has happened several times in the last few months where I have assisted new clients, several podcast listeners, and personal introductions from CPAs and other financial planners, where I've helped to facilitate brand new estate plans that included a very important specific provision for special needs children. These are young children in many cases that have Down syndrome, that have mental or physical conditions that they will never be able to fully function on their own as an independent person. They might live, in the case of the young family that I helped last week, that young person with a disability may live to be 70 or 80 years old, but will never be able to function on their own independently. It is so critical, folks, that you hear me on this, that if you or someone that you know has this situation where they have perhaps a young child that has a medical condition, a Down syndrome condition, it's any number of things, a severe case of autism, those are situations where they may want to have a special needs trust conversation with a good law firm. I would love to help with that conversation to make sure they get it done right. Because when you set it up correctly, you can make sure that things like life insurance money and retirement account money will go into funding a special needs trust for that child, so that, okay, this is important, so that if you were to die and you're not there to help them anymore, that money is then held in a special needs trust for the care of that young child, and then later into their life, it is sheltered and protected from creditors and liability, and it can be there as an asset that will also not prevent them from getting state assistance if they qualify for that as well. So special needs trusts are an important aspect. They go along with children's trust provisions and guardianships in a comprehensive estate plan. So now another big item is funding an estate plan. Funding an estate plan. I have lost track over the 22 years that I've been doing this, how many times I have met folks where I say, do you have an estate plan, a living trust? Oh, yeah. And I say, is it funded? What? Is it funded? Did you put your house in the trust? Yeah, sure. No, can you prove it? This happened just recently. I actually met with a couple. Now, when the missus opened the door, I had already been prepped a little bit by someone who said, I think the missus, her name's Susan, I think she might have early onset dementia. And I went to the appointment, the CPA had introduced me. I went to the appointment knowing this, that there was also a healthcare provider that was going to be there. But sure enough, Susan answered the door. And exactly what my CPA friend said, yeah, Susan definitely has probably much more severe case of dementia than onset. She definitely does. Now, the healthcare worker took care of Susan, and I went to visit with Susan's husband, who is bedridden, has a medical condition in his early 80s, and he has taken a bit of a turn for the worse in the last few months, that he's not necessarily terminal, but he's just not well, and he's not able to move around and get in and out of bed without fear of breaking something. So I went in to visit with him. Now, one of the things that we talked about was this idea of funding the living trust. I said, do you have a living trust? Yes. Oh, you have that? When did you get that done? It was done something in the neighborhood, I think he said 9 or 10 years ago. And I said, okay, well, I'd love to have a copy of that to review that. My firm, my lawyers, and everybody, we can all review it for you. Okay, good. Now, I said, has your trust been funded? Have you got this home, your primary home? And I understand you also have 2 rental properties. Are they funded into your trust? Yes, and yes, he said, very confidently. Yes, absolutely, they're in the trust. And I said, do you have a copy of a tax bill or anything that we can just verify that? Oh, no, don't worry about it. They're in the trust. Now, I was not there to be pushy or difficult. I was there just to take notes and ask questions. What I did later was I connected with their daughter. Rhonda, and I said, hey, Rhonda, I believe it's important that you double check the tax bills. And what that does is it shows the actual title of the property on the tax bill. Is it titled in the name of the living trust, Or perhaps, was there a mortgage refinance or something happened where it didn't get in the trust? We got to check that. She said, oh, I didn't even know that could be a problem. And so Rhonda set about digging through all of the stuff in the office because Dad was a bit of a pack rat with all of his stuff. And sure enough, she found the most current tax bills for all 3 properties. None of them in the living trust. None of them titled correctly in the living trust. Here's the number, just so you know. Here in Southern California, okay, if Mom and Dad passed away and they had never checked this out, that trust would have basically been unfunded and valueless to the family. Rhonda, the daughter, would have had to open up probate in 2 states, because there's 2 properties in California and there's 1 in Arizona. And the probate fees and lawyer fees, in my estimation, would be at least $200,000, and it would take at least 2 years to process. Okay? So when I say this, if you're listening to this and you think, I wonder if my parents have a living trust, that should be your first question. The second question should be, I wonder if they have a living trust, is it funded properly? I wonder if their tax bill actually shows the living trust as the owner of their property. You as the beneficiaries and maybe the trustee someday, you owe it to yourself. Double check that today. Make sure that you know that the trust is funded correctly. All right? That's a big deal. Now, a couple of quick things. I'm going to finish up with this. Choosing a trustee. Choosing a trustee. Now, when a husband and wife does a living trust and an estate plan, the husband and wife are usually the backup trustees for each other. Okay, they'll do that. They'll be the power of attorney for each other, first position. But who's the backup? The successor trustee is very important. Much like the power of attorney selection, it's really important to pick someone that's relatively close, that's someone who could easily get to the family home, for example, spend some time there. Because remember, the trustee, when you're dead and gone, the trustee's job is to settle up the estate and sell the house and cash out all the bank accounts and so forth. You don't necessarily want a trustee, if you're in New York City, you don't necessarily want a trustee who lives in Arizona and has to go to work Monday through Friday, because how are they going to come out and be able to really take care of being on site to settle your estate? It's usually a good idea to have somebody close to home, somebody that can do that for you, because it can be a bit of work. Now, you can also choose as a backup to your backup trustee, you can choose a corporate trustee. So my law firm actually has a trustee service where we, in many cases, we will be that third position where you'll have husband and wife, you might have a brother or sister or a son or daughter, and then our law firm would be in a position that in case something horrible happened, we can step in as a firm and be that fiduciary trustee for the estate. So that's an important thing to consider. There's also one really big deal, and I want you to think about this. Again, sons and daughters out there who have been named as trustee on their parents' trust. If you are named with your brother or sister, pay close attention to my words here. There is a huge difference between the word and or. And an or. There's a huge difference that if you are named as trustee with your brother and sister, the word and is often interpreted as a connection between brother and sister. You must now operate together on everything. You are not separate. You are one unit. Brother and sister together. If it says brother or sister, in most cases, those two would be able to act independently. Brother is off in Costa Rica on vacation. Sister is here. That's okay. The trustee position says brother or sister. If brother's off on vacation in Costa Rica and it says brother and sister, there are some companies that will look at that and say, nope, we can't do anything without the two of them together here side by side. They both have to sign everything. So that and or is a really important little nuance in the planning. Now, the other things I want to just touch on at the end is this idea that when you pick a trustee, don't do it just like, oh, yeah, I'm sure my friend Jim, he'll do it. You really should check with Jim and understand that the trustee settling up your estate after you're dead and gone has a responsibility as a fiduciary. That's a high level of responsibility to the beneficiaries of the trust. The responsibility of the trustee is to the beneficiaries of the trust, and they can be held liable. There are circumstances, I've seen it many times, where the trustee comes under assault from beneficiaries or people who think they should have been beneficiaries. So make sure that you pick the trustee wisely. There's some very specific things, language that can go in there for the trustee. And then finally, coordinate with all of the key advisors. Make sure that your financial advisor that assists with your life insurance, your IRAs, whatever it might be, make sure that your beneficiaries are all updated, because you can include your estate plan, your living trust, as a backup beneficiary on your IRAs and life insurances and things like that. You want to make sure that your CPAs, your financial planners, you want to make sure that all of those folks are coordinated together so that everybody knows they're on the right page. Now, that's going to wrap up Estate Plan 101. If you have been motivated and inspired to get off the log, just like my wife and I, by the way, did recently, we got our estate plan updated. We've had our living trust and our wills and everything done for a number of years, but it was just time to get them all freshened up and brand new. If you're ready to get off the log and get yours done, get that conversation started, it's complimentary. Let's have a conversation about it. Send me an email, Kraig with a K, at kraigstrom.com. Folks, thank you as always for the questions. Thank you for the support. Please head on over to iTunes and leave a great review. I would love to see some more 5-star reviews in there. That would be awesome. And take care. Be well. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.